We are prepared. We are live. We are the Working Fans Podcast, and we coming at you this day with all the energy in the world. AJ, how much energy do we got?
Let me tell you something. The only reason I'm here live and on this show today is thanks to the people at Dubby. I would not be here without them. I'm actually dealing with pneumonia right now. But thanks to Dubby and going to Dubby.gg and getting my 10% off for using the code FANSWORKING, I was able to have the energy to be able to pull through with no jitters and still be able to rock and roll this broadcast. So let's pump it up and let's go, baby.
All right, baby. Well, you know what we're going to start off with. We're going to start off with the big event this weekend, Crown Jewel, Saudi Arabia. And AJ, we have a fun little show here. I'm hoping that maybe we get some things to shake it up a little bit. Before we even get into this, I was thinking about this. Like, I've enjoyed WWE so much more since Vince is gone lately. But I would say, if I'm being honest, I feel like I don't want to. It's not bad, but I feel like we're a little stale. Like, things we could use a shakeup on things. How do you feel about that?
So I think that the main product is a little bit stale. NXT to me continues to come through. Halloween Havoc came through both days this week.
Right.
I mean, this week and last week, it was fantastic. But the main roster, you're starting to get a lot of the same storylines. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for long-term storytelling, but you have to continue to keep the story fresh. We're at a point now where a lot of the stories are becoming the same over and over again. Seth Rollins back is bad. Roman Reigns is running the bloodline. Everybody's out to get the bloodline. Let's break up the bloodline. There are some interesting aspects because LA Knight does have a chance to break through this weekend. Whether he wins the title or not, if he has the performance that we're expecting him to have, he has a great opportunity here to be that next level. And there are rumors, and I think the WWE does this on purpose. There are rumors once again to Roman Reigns wanting time off. But how much time could you possibly want off when you're only on camera once every 4 weeks and you defend once a month?
Yeah, he's got a sweet-ass schedule. There's no doubt about it. And, Roman, I think it's funny because Roman takes a little bit of breaks. Not that I'm against Roman, but I think you kind of hit it, like, especially on Raw with Seth in the back. I feel like we definitely need a little more of a shakeup there at this point.
Well, I think some of the undercard storylines, to be honest with you, are the ones that are a little bit stale.
Right.
I think that a lot of the stuff with Ricochet continues to be the same feuds over and over again, even when you don't even realize the feuds still happen. That being said, Raw came out this week and they brought in the Creed brothers, and I think that was a great win. How impressive was it to see the older Creed brother actually put freaking what's his name there? Dumpster Boy. You know who I'm talking about. Otis put him up on his shoulders and actually stand there waiting for the bomb. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. They're a breath of fresh air. All right, we stalled a little bit here. Let's get to our predictions on Crown Jewel this weekend. And I think I just wanted to get the point that we're hoping for a little change. But let's see when we start to look at this, because we didn't look at this.
There's a rumor about Crown Jewel. I don't know if you've heard it or not. But yesterday there was a little bit of disagreement whether or not Kairi Sane was added to the roster internally. It turns out she was not added early in the day, but she was added later in the day to the internal roster. And there's a lot of speculation that she's actually currently in Saudi Arabia. Also, there's speculation that Grayson Waller, who has been removed from the weekend events, is also in Saudi Arabia now.
Interesting. Well, let's kick it off with the pre-show. Sami Zayn versus JD McDonough. Who's get the win? I'm going to say it's Sami Zayn for the simple fact he's in Saudi Arabia. And, we just recently got Sami on these Saudi shows. I think just from anything, just to make the aesthetics look good of this man with Syrian descent winning. I think that's about as political as you can be, right? I think we're going to get a Sami Zayn win here.
So you think we're going to go racist and give the Muslim a win? I get it. That's I'm going with Sami also. I'm going with Sami though because unfortunately, and I shouldn't say unfortunately because I love both of them. He's the bigger star right now than JD McDonough. Now that being said, I think JD needs it more. I would love to see JD actually go over, but I'm with you. I think Sami's going to go over.
All right, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre. AJ, I'm going to let you pick first.
I'm going Drew McIntyre.
No kidding.
I think Drew turns heel, does something to actually put Seth on the shelf for a little bit, and I think that he's going to go over here.
Okay. So,
that, by the way, that's my out on the limb prediction for the weekend.
All right, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna actually go with Drew. I think they need to shake things up. I'd like to see Damian Priest maybe cash in, but that's the only thing. I don't see Damian cashing in then if Drew is gonna win it. But we'll see. In fact, you know what? I am gonna go with that. AJ, I'm changing my prediction. Seth wins. Drew loses it, beats the crap out of him. Damian Priest cashes in.
Or here's another way it could go. Drew wins, so you think that would make Drew happy. Damian Priest actually cashes in on Drew McIntyre, causing Drew to completely snap on Monday.
Very possible. Interesting.
So I think all of those are a possibility. Yeah. Right now, I've got Drew, you've got Seth, but I think both of us have perhaps Damian Priest leaving the weekend with that championship.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about that. We'll keep going on with the show. Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler versus Zoe Stark versus Raquel Rodriguez. Ripley's not dropping the title here.
I would love to see Zoe Starks get it. I know I'm in the minority there. Yeah. I just think she's such an incredible athlete. I would also love to see
because that ain't happening. But
No, that's the last thing that's going to happen. But my next dark horse that I would love to see, I think like myself, you are a big Shayna Baszler fan.
Sure.
I would love to see Shayna Baszler get that belt. However, I think Rhea Ripley's coming out with it.
Let me ask you this. Who's got a better chance of winning, Nia Jax or Shayna Baszler?
Oh, Christ. Unfortunately, I think Nia Jax.
I think they positioned her where they would probably.
Son of a bitch.
But we're both saying Ripley though. We're both saying Ripley. All right. I'm gonna skip this next one because they don't have it in the order I like. John Cena versus Solo Sikoa. Does Cena get the win here?
I don't think he does.
Okay, because they've built it up that he hasn't won in like 2,000 days, something like that, a singles match.
That's why I don't think he's getting it.
Interesting.
Plus, you need to make Solo Sikoa. Solo is actually the enforcer for the bloodline. He needs something big.
Right.
And talk about a feather in your cap. Taking out John Cena at Crown Jewel.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Solo, but when we get to the end, I'll tell you why I think Cena could win. But we'll go with Solo now, too, because I think that's the smart money. Io Sky with Bayley versus Bianca Belair.
Oof. I'm going to go with Io. I think Io holds on to the belt.
I'm going to go with Io, too, and I'll tell you why. I think that that little thing you mentioned about Kairi Sane in the rumor, I think she's going to align herself with Io.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility also.
All right. Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest. We both said Damian Priest is going to probably cash in later. That being said, he's probably going to lose here because at the end of the day, this happens all the time with the Money in the Bank winners. They usually lose before they cash in. And
I think it's like 80% that they lose the same night that they actually cash in.
And it's a better story, too, because now you're going to have Cody possibly in that world title mix at some point as well, too.
Well, that's just it. You could have Cody chasing after Damian Priest.
Right, for sure.
Which is a pretty sure thing that he's going to end the story. That he's going to get a world championship if it's Cody versus Damian Priest for the world championship.
Yeah, although they keep mentioning Roman, so I feel like that's the end game. But
right. They could do a WrestleMania match where it's Roman versus Cody, and they're both world champions.
That's interesting. I don't hate it. This is one that I think is interesting. I think we're going to agree on. Rey Mysterio defends the United States Championship against Logan Paul. Fans,
guess what? You're going to get yourself a new United States champion. Logan Paul's walking out with that belt.
Logan Paul's walking out with that title. And I think the fact that people are missing this too, there's this arrangement with the WWE in Saudi Arabia. Now UFC is going to be going to Saudi or TKO. We saw boxing over there in Saudi Arabia. The Paul brothers have done business with Saudi Arabia. It all makes sense. Logan Paul is going to win that title. And by the way, we haven't heard any rumors, but don't be surprised if Jake Paul gets involved in it somehow.
Logan Paul deserves that title. Logan Paul works his ass off. For him to do the two sports like he is and still be able to perform the way he has in a WWE ring, Ray doesn't need the belt. Put it on him. Give it to him.
All right. Main event, LA Knight versus Roman Reigns. Next week, we're going to be talking about the rise of LA Knight. Yeah, because LA Knight has been on fire. But AJ, is he going to capitalize here? Is this the night that he wins the WWE Championship?
If it is, it's going to be because Solo costs Roman Reigns. And that's why I'm predicting Solo to win earlier in the night.
Oh.
I think he's going to actually cost LA Knight. I think LA Knight is walking out with the title. And I think that it's going to cause more heat this time between the whole bloodline, and it's going to give Roman Reigns somebody to blame.
I hope to God you're right. I'm going to pick Roman, but
how do you pick? Unless you're insane, how do you pick against Roman?
It's tough. But here's the thing. This is why I was saying earlier I could see Cena winning. Right? Check this out. LA Knight wins. Cena wins. Cena versus LA Knight. You put over LA Knight even bigger by having him going over against John Cena, and that could even be a WrestleMania match. It's just a possibility.
Well, that could also be the Royal Rumble. But now you have him going over the two top stars, the two biggest champions in the last decade.
Absolutely. You want to get a guy over, that would be the way to do it. So
that's I don't hate it. I don't. But I don't think you're going to see eventually the actors strike is going to come to an end and John Cena is going to go away.
All right. Let's talk about it. AJ, what are you up to tonight before we go on our next segment? What's going on?
I'm not doing anything too big. I'm just opening up for Jason Alexander at the Bushnell.
Yes.
We're doing a cancer benefit. If you're in the neighborhood, come check it out. It'll be a fun time. I will not be making as many wife jokes as I normally do because she'll be there. So I will have to make mama jokes instead.
Mama jokes it is. Guys, what are your thoughts on AEW Collision and Ring of Honor tapings you guys went to? So AJ left at the Ring of Honor tapings. He doesn't know this, but me and Joe ended up leaving after like the third match, and I think they had 3 more matches of Ring of Honor tapings to go. So my opinions, loved AEW Collision. MJF versus Kenny Omega was awesome. Not sure why, from a company standpoint, we booked that match on 3 days' notice. But, hey, we were the beneficiaries. I loved it. Now, that being said, Ring of Honor wasn't bad. But at the end of the day, guys, like a friend of ours who went to the show, John, said the structure of the show, like you're finishing with AEW Collision and then you're going to Ring of Honor, it just kind of dragged. You needed something big for me. Like it needed to be Samoa Joe or Claudio or Eddie Kingston in those final Ring of Honor matches if we were going to do it that way.
They did do Ring of Honor matches beforehand also, which were actually really good matches. So you actually had an Oreo sandwich there with the Ring of Honor. I live an hour away, so I was not staying. I wasn't wasting my energy on Ring of Honor and I hate to say that because I do like Ring of Honor, but I wasn't getting home at 1 a.m, 2 a.m. because of Ring of Honor.
Right. Absolutely. Joe.
I do want to take myself off mute and mention that the Ring of Honor that was mostly taped last night or at the event we went to aired last night. So there were some really good matches. Josh Woods was in an amazing match on there. noteworthy, Anthony Ogogo came out, retired from boxing, and said he is committed to ROH. So there were a lot of good matches. It was just weird. There were some things taped beforehand, some things taped afterwards, and they were all mixed up in the tapings. So
Well, the match
it was
that
a good time overall.
The match that was going when we came into the building was actually Ethan Page versus Josh Woods, which is a hell of a match.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, overall though, it was a great experience. We enjoyed it, and it was a great show put on by Tony Khan. Tony Khan gave us AEW Collision. And let's talk about some of Tony Khan's great ideas. A couple weeks ago, we had a 5-3-1 on Tony Khan's worst ideas. Let's talk about his best ideas. Let's talk about some of the best things that Tony Khan has done. AJ, do you got a list ready?
I do, but if anybody doesn't mention the fact that we'll be celebrating on Dynamite the 69th day of the Acclaimed having their championships, I don't know how these lists will even count. All right, I've got Albert Bettis. The hiring of CM Punk. Great idea. Really turned out well. The hiring of FTR. Hiring of Samoa Joe. Hiring of Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
Hiring Kevin Kelly as lead announcer for Collision. How do you mention Kevin Kelly and not mention Nigel McGuinness? Nigel McGuinness is turning into my favorite heel announcer. But
fun.
hey, Albert Bettis altogether not a bad list other than that first stupid one.
Hey, you know what's funny? I'm going to go my list next because I think it's interesting that the hirings are making this list when you thought about it. But I also got signing CM Punk because at the end of the day, it ended up putting a lot of eyes on the product. And it was a good initial move.
Have those eyes stayed on the product?
No, because you couldn't manage them. But that's aside the point. That's for another episode that we discussed.
Is it possible that CM Punk makes both lists?
He did. He made both my lists. I actually had it on the worst. So anyway, well, let me go on with the rest of the list. I have putting a show in Wembley. I think it's the best thing they've done all year when you really look at it. When business has struggled a little bit this year compared to other years, it did not struggle in Wembley, and it was a great optic looks filling up that stadium. So I think that was an awesome move booking that this year. Another thing, a small thing he's done that I think we take for granted now because it's been a couple-year-old company, but the emphasis on tag team wrestling. The fact that we have an emphasis on great tag teams and had great runs with tag teams and six men, and that's something that they should take credit for. All right, here's my top two, though. Building relationships with other promotions. That is great. I'd love to see him actually do more stuff with other promotions. I feel like we've lagged on that a little bit. Now it's just mostly New Japan.
Wait a minute. He's got a great promotion. We get great Mexican stars all the time because of his relationship with CMLL. He's got a great relationship with New Japan, hence the Forbidden Door pay-per-views.
Right.
I would like to see him put a little bit more thought into those pay-per-views ahead of time so that they're not, so that they don't feel like they're just thrown together. Maybe we could see a CMLL pay-per-view with New Japan and have all three as a joint.
My thing is they kind of stopped working with Impact and NWA, maybe for obvious reasons. They're U.S.
Maybe because they weren't getting anything from either one of those.
Maybe, but I thought it was. I enjoyed it. So personally, but I get it.
He kept the relationship with the two organizations that he's actually getting stuff from.
I get it. Of course, that's business. At the end of the day, though, the final one I have for Tony Khan here, how he handled COVID, because he made it a point to put wrestlers in the crowd. And he had something going on there. Whereas if you look at WWE at that point, they had like that blank, empty chair look for a little while, and it was just not a good look. So I think overall, Tony Khan should really be credited for what they did during COVID.
He did have an advantage over the WWE. The WWE only had the Performance Center to use, which is a confined space. Tony Khan had an open-air stadium that his father owns where he could actually space people out and have them wherever he wanted to. So it is a great idea. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to take away from him, but he had a few tools there that the WWE did not have.
Yeah, either way, it was good on him. And I think Joey has got something he wants to add.
I'm going to bring you guys my list. I started off with the Daily's Place events. Like you said, I thought it was a good way to ride through COVID. I have buying ROH. No matter how he's handled ROH since he bought it, he got that tape library and is able to utilize it however he does. I've always been a big fan of how they've brought in indie talent, and some of that indie talent has turned into a roster member. Look at Bear Country. They were an early favorite that have been featured more and more. The Workhorsemen, another one, big indie talent. Come in. There's a lot of other names.
Yeah,
You
how
guys
about
have
Eddie
said it
Kingston
already.
and Ricky Starks and what he did with them in the beginning of AEW, bringing them off of a hardly seen NWA program. He brought both of them in the middle of freaking COVID, and they've both have been rock stars for his organization.
100%. I've got using that international talent, those Japanese, those Mexican stars they've been bringing in. Like, look at the match they have tonight. It's going to be Commander versus El Hijo del Vikingo versus Pentagon. That is a huge match. I've got Wembley Stadium as number 5 because just what he did with that event is big. And I got to give the Jake rule hiring CM Punk.
I just hope the Pentagon doesn't find out they're bringing in all those Mexicans. I've got Jesse from New Hampshire.
Yes.
He's got CM Punk, Daly's Place Events, Stadium Stampede. I have a feeling I know why Dave did his list so soon. I think a lot of the ideas are on these lists are what you had ahead of time, so you kind of put yourself out there, so you didn't look like you were copying them.
I wanted to come to bat for the CM Punk guy. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, blood and guts, which I agree with, and MJF creative freedom. The fact that he gives MJF the leeway that he does as a talented performer, I think is absolutely incredible. And that is something you got to give credit to Tony Khan for, because a lot of times people get nervous, especially MJF says a lot of stuff about Tony Khan.
Yeah.
So you got to give him credit for that.
I got Eddie C. Partnering with the Bucks and Omega, buying Ring of Honor, hiring Bryan Danielson, firing CM Punk, and All In. Man, could Punk just be any more of a polarizing guy? It's just so funny that he's making these lists for different reasons.
Well, here you go. And along with that, I've got Kayfabe's little brother, Dave. He's got Bryan Danielson. He's got finally firing CM Punk. All In, both. Bringing wrestling back to TNT and TBS, which is great. Bringing in foreign talent. So once again, that foreign talent continues to make the lists, and CM Punk continues to be a polarizing person.
Sure. John Lanford, All In. So All In keeps as another one that's getting mentioned here. Working with New Japan, again, that relationship with other promotions. Hiring MJF. Being so responsive to the fans, starting AEW. I will talk about that being so responsive to the fans. I will say that is a good thing most of the time.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword. So sometimes he's a little too responsive. Sometimes he'll jump off and respond to something without actually thinking first.
And it's sometimes something he doesn't even need to respond to. Just nobody cares about people with less than 1,000 followers on Twitter. Let it go.
Yeah, if the guy's got 3 followers on Twitter, maybe you could just let it go. Yeah. I've got John White bringing in international stars, which is a hot topic throughout the lists. Buying ROH, so he agrees with Joe. Having Jericho be the first champion, I actually agree with that. I think having Jericho brought a lot of legitimacy to the championship, and he was able to work with a lot of great people. Having London host All In was fantastic, and the fact that they're bringing it in again next year is also a great idea.
What a shitty announcement, by the way, though. Just want to point that.
It was a shitty way to do the announcement, but we should go to that. Growing younger stars. This is something that hasn't been mentioned yet, but he has done a tremendous job of grooming people like Darby, MJF, Hook, and getting them over with the audience and getting them familiar with them.
Agreed.
Another one that is starting to get good reactions. Look at what Sky Blue did this week. Sky Blue was a relatively unknown, but her and Julia Hart, who is also a relatively unknown, both of them really came through this week.
We've got our eye on Sky Blue, but I've got a list from Chris Zauha, who has starting a wrestling company, Sting, Arn, Tully, and Shaq. Now, I'm still hurt that they couldn't make it work with Tully. And if we can take a little side trip, what do you guys think of the Ric Flair signing?
Oh,
Okay.
that was. First of all, that was going to make my list. The fact that Ric Flair was the surprise for Sting. How is that not one of the great ideas that Tony Khan's come up with? That's just fantastic. Actually, to be more serious, I do have some good ones here. I've got letting go of Iron Anderson, Snot Nose Kid. That's a good idea. That kid's going nowhere. Number 2, getting rid of Cody Rhodes. He clearly has no future. Number 3, I did like Daly's Place. I thought it was a good use of the stadium, so that's actually a serious one. Number 4, I do like what he does with the younger talent. I think the way they're bringing Hook along slowly is fantastic. They've also done a great job with Billy Gunn's kids. They've done a great job with the Acclaim. They've done a great job with the younger talent and growing them. And on a serious note, I love the International. I love what they do with the international talent. I love Forbidden Door. I love the fact that they mix in a lot of the talent. The fact that QT Marshall is the champion in Mexico now is absolutely phenomenal, since he doesn't deserve an American championship. But overall, Tony Khan's a putz, but he's had some good ideas.
All right. On that note, I'm going to give you my last 2 lists. But before that, I just want to say, as far as Ric Flair being signed to AEW, I'm going to take a wait and see approach. But it is obviously another big name. Was to see how Mr. Flair is used.
Remember, they didn't just sign him. His energy drink is the official energy drink of AEW. So that's actually a good signing.
Who's that helping more, though? Is that helping Ric Flair's energy drink more, or is that helping AEW? I don't know the answer to that. So I guess we'll see. All right. I got Matthew Jeller here. Hiring Punk. Hiring Danielson. All in. That's all I got off the top of my head. All right. Thank you. Jake Rule. All right. Hold on. Jake Rule. Jake's got a rule. All right. So he started off with the Jake Rule. Usually we finish with that. But
yeah, you can't start with the Jake Rule. That makes it your number 1 pick.
Yeah. So I'll work in reverse. His number 1 was firing Phil, booking MJF, focusing on Chris Jericho early on so he can be the AEW legend and not considered a WWE legend because WWE sucks. No biasness here. Unscripted promos and wrestlers wearing street clothes, not their merch, unlike the WWE because WWE sucks. 5, booking Sting like a legend, something WWE couldn't and wouldn't do because WWE sucks. All right, and Jake Rule. Booking Max like a star, unlike how WWE booked him because WWE sucks. Max? Talking about Maxwell Friedman? I don't know, because MJF hasn't been there yet, so. AJ, you're on mute, buddy. Or something's going on with you.
Maybe Max Caster?
Yeah, the big run he had at WWE. All right, well, on that being said, Joe, do you have another list?
I have 2 last-minute lists from Reddit, and I really like the thinking that went into this because for a lot of people, both when we asked them for Tony Khan's bad ideas, a lot of people shut up, didn't give us any. We got a lot of sarcasm for Tony Khan's good ideas, but here's 2 lists from Reddit. John Q11 said, pinning the promotion's future on 4 young promising guys from the start. 2, playing the long game with Hangman and heating him up slowly. 3, working with New Japan. 4, powering through the pandemic with creativity. We brought that up earlier. And 5, never using an authority figure on screen, even though they think he will cave soon. And then the last list I have from House Jolly 4660 on Reddit said, starting a wrestling company in 2019 when there was an appetite for an alternative. 2, building MJF from day 1. 3, using a lot of veterans as pairing with younger, lesser-known wrestlers. 4, wrestlers as the audience during the pandemic. And 5, focusing on Hangman/Omega and a strong tag division in the first couple of years of the company. So I thought those were some thoughtful answers.
Yeah, I love the way they heated up Hangman slowly, but then they cooled him down very quickly. So that was great.
I think you're talking about after Hangman won the title, how basically it's all been kind of
That's
down.
what I'm saying. They took their time, they built him up, but boy, did they rip him down quick.
All right, AJ, I'm going to throw some thoughts at you here. I think we're going to be in agreement this week. For my number 3, the third on the list, I'm going to put it as a tie. The firing and hiring of CM Punk. Since Punk was all over, I'm just going to put him in the number 3 spot, kind of cancel him out for the final 2, but just recognize that people loved whether he got rid of him or he hired him. It was something that people definitely reacted to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That first time he came out in Chicago, I think is one of the best moments in
Yes.
AEW history, just because of how absolutely incredible and off the hook it was.
Absolutely. Number 2, I'm going to say the Wembley Stadium show.
The Wembley Stadium show is the best thing he's ever done. I didn't have it on my list because I was too busy being sarcastic and snarky. But the Wembley Stadium show is the best thing he's ever done. He packed it in there, and I love how he continues to say sold more tickets than any wrestling event ever, because while the WWE has had bigger events, they have a tendency of giving some of those tickets away.
Sure. Now, the number 1 I had was just working with other promotions, because I just think that that's long-term going to be one of the big successes of him. And I think that's...
Well, it's brought some of the biggest stars he's got going right now. The only thing that I wish he would stop doing is working with Okada so that he stops hurting Bryan Danielson.
So I think that was Orange Cassidy, by the way. Apparently, Bryan...
All I know is Okada was in both matches, and now Bryan Danielson's had a broken arm and a broken orbital bone.
Yeah, apparently Bryan went in there with injured orbital bone, and I guess what happened with Orange Cassidy, and I don't know, like someone said.
That orange punch does look so vicious.
That it does. All right, folks. So that is going to be our number 1 this week. We are going to go with the relationship with New Japan and other promotions, and
you know what else we should do? We should go where wrestling lives. We should go down to Wrestleville.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Wrestleville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Wrestleville.com. Wrestleville. It's where wrestling lives.